Hello and welcome to our episode 26. I paused because it's like, wow, 26 episodes of Conversation to Connect. Let's get real, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm CyndiONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. At Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative networking and solutions to boost your business. So each week we nominate a different member of our community to have a meaningful conversation with. So be sure to make yourself comfortable with a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice and take notes so that you can, keep track of the conversation and be able to join us with questions in the chat box. And around the 45-minute mark, I'll unmute the lines to invite our listeners to share their questions, their ahas, their epiphanies, and enter into our thought-provoking conversation. So the inspiration of our bi-weekly Conversations to Connect, Let's Get Real talks, is to create purposeful conversations. So we desire to be relevant during these challenging and uncertain times and to support our community to make an impact in the world and stay connected. So as we get started here, I invite you to set aside all distractions and invest your attention in the conversation that's about to unfold. So look for just one idea, something that you can implement and put into action. And so don't cheat yourself for the opportunity that you've invested in here. Our conversation to connect this week is with the fabulous and fun Stephanie Arnheim from Portland, Oregon. She is Portland's networking expert. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Cyndi. I'm glad to be here.
Well, so glad to have you. And I'm excited to be able to have the conversation that you've selected to unfold. 3 epic networking failures on Zoom and how not to ruin your reputation. So before we get going here, I just want to share a little background on Stephanie for those who don't know her. So as a connection strategist and master networker, Stephanie Arnheim educates people on how to reach the next level in their business using simple daily practices. Her clients and workshop participants learn how to overcome their fears associated with networking and dynamically connect with their key customers and business resources in powerful ways. Stephanie is the founder of Stephanie Connects, a company that educates entrepreneurs, introverts, we'll talk about that later, right? And business professionals in the art and science of empowered networking. Her mission is to teach the connection skills needed to succeed in business, cultivate clients, and communicate clearly. So Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us. I'm really excited to be able to have this conversation unfold. It's one, as you know, that's near and dear to my heart as well. So before we launch into our conversation, that again is really so timely in this day of Zoom, would you give us a little background about, kind of your journey and how you came to be so passionate about networking?
Oh, thanks, Cyndi. And I really appreciate a chance to be here today with everyone. Well, in looking back, I wasn't always a natural networker. I've always been an introvert. And I became a raving fan when I was a single mother and became an entrepreneur. And I realized that I was networking. Because when I was connecting with other women who were in the same situation as I was, it gave me a sense of community, a sense of connection. And I made some real friends in the process too. I've dealt in terms of different positions that I've held. I've done everything from elementary school teacher, real estate entrepreneur, flipped houses, bought land parcels, as well as direct sales, health coach, all kinds of stuff. But Stephanie Connects has been my passion since 2013. And I've really feel that creating those connections in the networking world, even via Zoom these days, can help people feel all connected.
Yeah, well, you've had quite a diverse background. I love it because a lot of it is just around people, right? Just being able to support other people. So that's always been your gift, and I love that. So my question for you as we get going here is, were you always a networking expert?
No, I wasn't always a networking expert, not at all. You wouldn't have recognized me 15 years ago. I was a single mom working in a job I didn't like in high tech and being an introvert, and I thought I was stuck. And when I found out that networking could be a way that could shift everything, then things started to change as I evolved into the entrepreneurial world. So I definitely was not a networking expert, though when looking back, I've always been a connector.
Okay, wait a minute. I got to stop the bus right here. A networking expert who's an introvert. That sounds like an oxymoron to me.
Yeah, I guess you could think so. Well, because I didn't become a networking expert right away when I went entrepreneurial. I went entrepreneurial in about 2004 and I started my own business and I failed miserably. And so then I went back into working with my husband in real estate and I thought, I'm not going doing that entrepreneurial thing. That's just too hard. And then times changed and I said, real estate's not my passion, that's his passion. So I went entrepreneurial again in 2009. And this time I wanted to do it right. So I joined some networking groups. I learned from experts. I hired a coach, a marketing and business coach, and learned how to create successful connections. And one of the things was I had joined BNI in 2009, Business Networking International, because one of the, not more than one of the books, Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, he's a networking expert or was, and he really solidified it for me. I was the mentor coordinator in my chapter, and I loved, that's what started seeding the process. So I learned that yes, introverts can be very good networkers. Yeah.
Well, I love that because that's great encouragement to all of us, whether we're introverts or extroverts. Um, I think I heard the term I'm an omnivert.
Oh,
So because I've tested extrovert in the past, and then in recent years I've tested introvert, and I was thinking, well, why is that? And my justification is I think I'm more comfortable in my own skin now, so I can be who I truly am. But omnivert, have you heard that term?
no, I haven't, but
It's
that
both.
makes sense. It's both. And, when I meet people at networking events and I tell them I'm an introvert, they go, no, you're not. But it's because when you're in your element, we don't come across that way. So I like that term, omnivert. That's a very good.
Omnivore, yes, because we are, none of us is just one. It's not black or white. There's shades there in between. But before we get going, I really want to kind of look into the whole idea of introvert and extrovert just for a moment,
Mhm.
because I think it's encouraging for people who are networking. A lot of times they identify themselves as introvert, and that kind of gives them permission not to interact with people.
Mm.
And I think it's a disservice because we all have our strengths and weaknesses. But the thing I heard that really encouraged me in terms of introvert is, or the question of introvert and extrovert is, where do you get your energy? Where do
Uh,
you get your energy? So I'm going to give you a second to think about it and I'll tell you. So for me, in testing introvert and thinking, now that's weird, why is that? But then realizing when I, show up in a space, whether I'm hosting a live event or a virtual event, you have to bring certain energy with you, right? And but it's, where do you get filled up? So as an introvert, I get filled up being home, kind of just gathering myself, gathering my thoughts, and then I can go out again, right?
mhm.
As an extrovert, I heard that extroverts actually get their energy being out in the world, being, in front of other people. And so once I heard that, it clicked for me. And I was like, okay, yes, I can embrace fully being an introvert because I know I love being with people. I love connecting. I love whether it's live or Zoom or on a call, whatever. But I also gather my energy and regroup when I'm in my own little home cocoon. So what are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree with what you're saying. And I guess I may need to recategorize myself as an omnivert, because when I was leading eWomen Network Portland, the chapter I was managing director for 4 years, I would do an event and I get energized by the event, and I'd be connecting people and, leading the meeting and helping them network successfully, those kind of things. But when I went home, I looked forward to also going home and just being quiet. I needed my time to re-energize.
Yes.
But I do know extrovert. I have some very close extrovert friends, and they could go from event to event, and they're in their moment, and that's what gives them, I need my space. So it's
Yes.
just understanding what works for you best. And with networking, it's very important because it can be very draining. And that's why a lot of introverts don't like to do it, is they feel like they have to be on when there's different ways to handle it, so they don't feel that conflict.
Yes. Yes. Well, I love that. And that's fun that we can both really kind of dissect it and have it be something that resonates not only with us, but hopefully with others as well. Excuse me, my throat here. So one thing you alluded to that was not included in your bio is your background with eWomen as the managing director. I think you were an executive managing director.
I was. Thank you,
So
Cyndi.
share a little bit about your journey, because I think that sets a wonderful foundation for our conversation that's going to unfold here today.
With eWomen Network is a global women's organization. They do allow men too, but it was based for women entrepreneurs as a place to grow their businesses, to meet other women, and it's international. When I was managing director and executive managing director, I had a very active chapter, and I quadrupled the size of the chapter in the 4 years through networking, through connecting. We were one of the largest chapters in the country. And it gave me a lot of confidence. It brought me leadership skills. And it also it created a community that I still keep in touch with to this day. I think it's very important for women to find areas that they can feel successful and safe, as well as being able to risk a little to show yourself, whether in your business, and you also make friends. So that's the best of both worlds, and that's all can be done with networking and connecting. So I went into that position not knowing about eWomen. I just took a blind leap of faith. I knew of them, and the opportunity presented itself. I jumped, and with that gave me a lot more confidence to grow as the position and as the chapter grew. So it was a wonderful working out today that I never look back with any regret. It is okay, as introverts don't always like to take risks. And that was a big risk for me, and it paid off multifold.
Well, I've heard so many wonderful things about what you did in that region during your time in leadership. So thank you so much, because we all need to be building communities, especially right now. And some people like you and I, it seems like whatever I do, I end up being in a leadership role. But others can benefit from community, right? And so
Yes.
there's different ways in which we all support each other in community. But I think during this time of COVID, we've learned more than ever the importance of community and the
Yep.
importance of staying connected and being of service to one another, even if we can't physically, be in each other's space. So thank you again for your contribution to the region and the community, because there's still ripple effects from what you created years ago. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful byproduct of community, is that it keeps being a blessing to others over time.
Mhm.
So I guess the next question here, in this time of Zoom, we're in 2021. There's the quarantines are not mandated like they were last year, but there's still a lot of concern about being with people that are in your bubble. But I have to ask you, do you miss live in-person events? How are you handling that? Because you're somebody that, as we just talked about, as an introvert, you love being with people like I do, but we also need our space. But again, that's a balance. This is a little bit out of balance right now.
Oh, it's very much out of balance right now. And I do desperately miss the in-person events. There's nothing like the human interaction to make us feel more connected, to help us make us feel just better inside. It's it's just a warmer feeling. And you can't you can when you meet someone in person and for me, I'm always reading the room and I'm looking, who can I introduce, so and so to. It's just not there. So definitely miss it a lot. And I do hope, if all things go well, maybe in the fall we'll be back together, but we have to be safe. I mean, that's
Yes.
what's most important.
Yes. And then I think people have to feel comfortable.
Yes.
So, it'll unfold and happen as it's supposed to. But I think we could both be advocates for that. And we'll have to have another conversation, Stephanie, when we go live, because what you just said about reading the room is so important. And a
Mhm.
lot of people who aren't comfortable with networking, my personal belief is the reason they aren't is because they don't know that there's soft skills, people
Right.
skills,
Right.
that they can be able to implement to help them and make it like a game, if you will. Make it fun. It doesn't have to be intimidating and scary. It's really, to me, a challenge. Like, who do I know that I need to connect with and say hello to? Give them a hug, say hi. We need to reconnect. And then identify the new people who are sitting in the corners and
Mhm.
pull them out,
Mhm.
engage them, introduce them to somebody else. And then, people that you're meeting that are for the first time, exchange contact information, right?
Mhm.
To be
If
able to do a Zoom call or a coffee date or whatever. So it really is fun. But again, if you're not looking at it from that perspective, I can totally understand. It could be very intimidating.
Yeah, I do. I love looking at networking like a game. I do. I'm a tennis player, so I always think it's kind of like volleying back and forth. If you don't, also by viewing it as a game, it takes the pressure off of feeling like work or making
Yes.
it feel difficult. If you look
Yes.
at the game, then you play. Let's play the networking game. Let's see
Yes.
who's here and who can I connect with. When we were doing in-person events and I would do an in-person workshop, the favorite thing of my workshop was always how to read the room, and I'd get them up physically to show them how to reach out to that person, the wallflower on the outside of the room,
Right.
or making sure you always go and meet the new person, someone you don't know. It's not that you're ignoring the people you do know. You can always stop and say hi, but it's the person. I've had many people who I've gone up and introduced myself at an event and they said, no one else talked to me but you. And that just means, though, I know it doesn't
Breaks
have
my heart.
to work.
We're mama bears for sure, right?
Oh yeah. Big time.
Well, I love your analogy of tennis because it's such a beautiful one where you do, it is back and forth. It is lobbying, and you don't have to play a game where it's like to the death, right? It's just
No.
having fun, enjoying it. You don't want to ace somebody. I mean, I just love all these word pictures that I'm getting,
Yeah.
that are really appropriate for networking. You want to make it fun. You want to make it lively. You can always take the conversation of the game to the next level, but you don't want to scare somebody to death either.
Oh, the people who do the verbal vomit, on
Yeah,
someone, or come up and are trying to sell you from the beginning.
right.
What you want to do is just back away.
Exactly. You want to engage. You want to, be able to build the foundation for that relationship that's going to allow it to unfold
Exactly.
beautifully and naturally. And so I love all these analogies. It's beautiful. So, how can we take advantage of the Zoom reality we're in today? How could we, make the best of it? given, our desire to have that, as you said, human connection, which is so important for our health and for our businesses. But given the reality we have of Zoom, how can we really utilize this platform to its fullest?
Well, Zoom is a reality of life and it's not going away even after COVID. I don't know about you, but I used Zoom before COVID too. I had some meetings that were that way with people in, outside of Portland. So networking also didn't shut down when, when the meetings did. We're still networking. So Zoom provides a new opportunity to reach out to others. I've been doing more networking with people across the country than I ever have. So networking works fine on Zoom. It is, of course, different than our in-person, but I encourage people, put your best foot forward and utilize the Zoom platform to help you grow your business, but it's not the only way. And hopefully we'll be able to do a balance of the two as we go forward. I do think we will be.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because like you, I've been doing Zoom for a lot of years. I took it to the next level in 2020, of course.
And then
um, and it was interesting because I really only used it for one-on-one, and one-on-one training, one-on-one conversations. And in January of 2020, I had this little prompting to get the pro account, January. And I'm like, okay, I was listening. Isn't it
yeah,
great when you get those little confirmations that you are listening and paying attention? And so, what I love that you're saying is that for a lot of us, whether we've used it, in the past or not, we now have those skill sets
mhm.
that we can take into our businesses in the future, which I think are critical. And I think they're not going to go away.
I don't think so either. And that was very smarty, very with foresight.
I
I mean,
know. I listened. I don't always listen. I try. I really try hard, but sometimes, you justify things, but when little things like that happen, it's like, okay, I'm grateful that I'm paying attention to my gut, to my heart, to God, to the universe, however you look at it. Because it's important. It's important for us to stay connected.
Well,
Um,
it provides a growth opportunity for you as well. And
yes.
that's one thing, well, growth for you and gardening. And, I don't even need to go there with all the analogies you have, but the growth as an entrepreneur, the growth of as a businesswoman, all of those things you listen to, and you've been taking it with the connection calls and as well as the monthly meetings. You took that platform and just made the most of it.
Well, I knew I had to. And I guess, in the context of talking about networking, I think we can just take a look at this, and it's not about wrong or right. It's just, again, about listening to our gut and going forward with what we feel is the right course. And if, as it proves true, then we can be an inspiration to others.
Mhm.
But early on, I was hearing people say, I'm just going to sit this out and see what happens.
Yep.
And I heard that a lot, and I'm thinking, gosh, that's not the message I'm getting. I'm
Right.
getting, put on your big girl panties and let's go.
I totally
Um,
agree.
and, that's just, sorry for that, but, it just really take it on. And, and this is a time to learn skills. And this is the time to challenge myself. And this is the time to push forward, not to go to sleep.
No.
um the kind of, I'm an English major, so I love word plays, but alert, awake, alert, aware. That's really what I was hearing. It's time to be awake, alert, aware,
Mhm.
not to go to sleep. um so, given the Zoom reality we're in, we're embracing it, we're learning things, like you said so wisely, we're going to be able to have that skill set at
Mhm.
the end of this, be able
Mhm.
to take our business forward. Because frankly, I wanted to do these conversations like this live,
It's
and I
a
didn't because, oh, there's lots of reasons. Chicken would be at the top of the list, I think. But there's something about the, mother, that necessity is the mother of invention, right? In just having a need and then meeting that need for yourself, for others, for your business. So you've been networking for a long time, as I have. And, share with us, in addition to just like the Zoom, how has networking changed for you during COVID? Like, how have you made that shift in being able to still stay connected in the midst of not being able to be physically connected?
Yeah, well, definitely it's changed because, we don't have the human connection, the physical human connection.
Right.
But what I've done is I've made sure that the online presence is there. I've not only, and this is personal and professional, because frankly, we're at home, pretty much. There's been some people that have gone back to a office, but mostly everybody's working from their home. So you have to look at how can you maximize that time. And one of the things I've done is doing regular one-on-ones. These are with, and this is with either clients, old clients, just touching base. It could be a quick phone call. Remember the phone? We a lot of people forget the phone. It's
Right.
like
With the cord.
yeah, really. Yeah. It's okay to just make a phone call, and
Yes.
you don't have to do a Zoom call all the time. So that's where networking has changed. Where when I was the executive managing director of eWomen, I would remind the gals. I said, just pick up the damn phone. Sorry, and call someone. They were like, what should I do? How should I contact them? Do I do email? Do I do text? Just call someone. So I've made a point of doing regular one-on-ones to keep in touch, not only with possible power partners, but and like people like after an exceptional connections call is to follow up with those people, and do a one-on-one to get to know their business, as well as people, family and friends, just to see how are you doing. And it doesn't have to be a long conversation, but that's that connection piece that I think is so important, and building those relationships.
Yes, for sure. And okay, so I'm going to circle back to something you said that I think needs to be shared with others is, so you're in a Zoom meeting, right?
Uh-huh.
We don't have the physical contact. We can't run across the room to talk to somebody, but we
Right.
do have tools. So we
Yeah,
can use that chat box that you referred to, right? And so
absolutely.
whether you hear somebody do we call an exceptional connection spotlight commercial. So we have everybody do a 30-second so you can get to know what they do, who they are, and who their ideal referral partners are. So you have a sense of who they are. And
Mhm.
that gives you an opening to be able to chat with them, right?
Exactly.
So, and hey, I'd love to get to know you, Doris. I love your energy. What is the best way to communicate with you? Text, email, you know, phone, Zoom, whatever. So I always like to ask people what the best way to connect with them is, because
Yes.
some people, I'm not a big texter. So I
Mhm.
have to make myself check it. Email, I'm on it all day long,
There you go.
but I'm not text as much. So I have to make myself go there. But some people, that's their first option. So being able to, take the initiative, reach out to people, ask
Mhm.
for their contact information,
Mhm.
the opportunity to be able to connect offline, whether it's by phone or a Zoom call.
Mhm.
Then you can take that. That's the springboard, right?
Right. Right.
And then to see people that on that call, or maybe you met them last month.
Right.
Oh, hi, Chuck. Good to see you. How you
Right.
doing? How much snow did you get out there in Monroe? So again, just like we're in live meetings, we're engaging with people.
Yeah.
But if
We're
you just come to a Zoom meeting and you're just an observer, it's easy to get off the call and go, well, that
away
wasn't very
from
fruitful. I didn't,
home.
yes, that speaker was great. And I learned some things, but I didn't meet anybody.
Mhm.
So you have to be more proactive, I found, with this
Definitely.
new, virtual format that we have right now. So I didn't mean to go on and on, but I just, I
Yeah.
think it's important that what you said about taking the initiative and reaching out to people, chat is the best way to do that.
Mhm.
And connecting by just saying a few things, using the chat box, even if you're not connecting with people, just to stay engaged with the conversation of the meeting.
Yeah.
Because other
And
people are watching, right?
oh, everybody's watching. And what's
Everybody's
interesting,
watching.
just to clarify also what you said, Cyndi, in case our listeners don't, really understand, what you said is spot on. But the chat box is using the direct message, doing a
Yes.
private chat to go like, I know Doris is on this call. It's like Doris has a great tagline. And if I hear a really good tagline, I'll private message. That was a great tagline, Doris. I'd love to have a one-on-one with you. Would you like to share your contact info? And I like the addition. Do you prefer by text or
Yeah.
email? How best to reach you
What
is
portal do you like?
yeah, yeah.
There's so many ways to be rejected, right? That was a movie quote I love.
It's
So no,
important.
I love that distinction. So if you're listening, pay attention to that. It's direct. If you don't know how to do that already, play with it when you get on your next Zoom call. So you
Yeah.
can message to everyone. And I recommend it, when you get on the call, happy Wednesday or whatever, the case may be. Engage in the conversation in the thread that is unfolding as the meeting goes, but also take advantage of the direct message where you can scroll down, see exactly who's there, and be able to message them directly. And so it's like having side conversations at a meeting where you're, kind of talking to the person next to you and passing a business card or whatnot. But yes, direct message. Thank you for mentioning that because that's a really important distinction that people may not be aware of.
Mhm.
Okay, so we need to get going here. We just so much to talk about. Um, so, what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen in online meetings? So, given the tips that we've given,
Mhm.
um, kind of fill in the blank here on some common mistakes that you've seen.
Well, this may seem kind of easy, but I mean, not showing up as you want to be seen, like you're not professional looking. It's amazing how people have gotten more lazy, shall we say, about how they look. Do you look professional? Do you have your makeup done? Is your hair nice? What's your background? Or is the dog running around? Do you have a lot of background noise? Those kind of things are mistakes that I see actually still to this day. And I'm like, people, you want to be seen as a professional. So it's really important to that. So treat it like you are going to a regular meeting. Uh,
Yes,
and as we mentioned before, it's not a sales, this isn't a sales, opportunity in these meetings. It's not just to, fill that. It's to find out who are your potential power partners. So these mistakes is people think, well, just like entertain me. No, it's a time for you to be looking strategically as to who is the best. And also those who aren't paying attention, if they are on their phones or when they don't have their picture up, I often wonder, where if for a long period of time, where are they?
right.
Treat it like you're in the meeting. And that's one of the mistakes I see more, the most common one I see on online networking meetings.
Yes, that's brilliant. So from the waist up, professional, right?
Yes,
At the very least.
yes,
Be comfortable, but treat it like you're in a meeting and, pay attention to what's going on. Keep your screen up for the most part. I mean, we all have times where there's a noise or something happens, and
sure,
that's fine,
sure.
but
Yeah.
but be engaged and commit yourself to being at that meeting. So I love that. That's all great. So we've all been to networking events, virtual now and live. And so can you again, mention some other things that I know you had some horror stories that you were sharing with me, that can kind of make that fun and put it in the context for others who because they've had maybe one horror story or bad thing, they've sworn off networking. Can you offer some encouragement and share your story too?
Yeah. Well, the horror stories, there's actually quite a few, but I know when we were talking beforehand, one of my favorite in-person one, because even though we're not in person now, I'm sure we will be back together. And this is a true one. I call it the Bathroom Stalker networking horror story. And
Oh
this
boy.
happened to a friend of mine, and I was at that networking event. So this is not a made up story. Is I was talking with this friend, and then we went and we were networking, and she was talking with this gal, and this gal would not leave her alone. She was like, she was done with the conversation, and this was a client of mine, and I had taught her, how do you get out of these difficult conversations when someone's like glued to you, the close talker. And
Right.
she said, well, Jane, it's been nice talking. I know you want to meet a lot of other people, enjoy yourself. And the gal, and she says, and she said, you'll have to excuse me, I need to go use the restroom. This gal followed her to the restroom.
Oh dear.
True story. So you do need to go where you say you're going to go, but then she had to be a little more forthright. It's like, I want to meet other people, you know. So that
Yeah.
was definitely a networking horror story that always makes me chuckle, especially if I ever go to the restroom. I wonder if other people are following me.
Well,
But
it's important. What that story brings up to me is obviously it's important. First impressions are important, right? You don't want to have people see you as a stalker right off the bat. So exchanging contact information, expressing an interest to get to know that person and get connected, and then, take it to the next level.
But
Um,
I do think though, Cyndi, to that point, it's important to pay attention to the visual cues, but I don't ask for a business card unless I really want to follow up with them.
right.
They
Yep.
may give me their card, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give them my card.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
why is that? Let's dig a little deeper because,
I,
because you didn't feel comfortable. There's something that didn't, you want to be attracting people. You want to be attractive to people. You don't want to be repelling. And
right.
so knowing you, it doesn't matter if they're a networker or, whatever they are. If there's something about that person that's attractive, my guess is you probably would have asked for their contact information because even if you can't use the service yourself, you're a connector.
Yes.
Somebody else might be able to use their services.
Right. And some of times it is your gut, but a
Yeah.
lot of times, if I'm working, like say with certain clients, and I know the type of people in their power partner, like potential power partners for myself or for my clients, that's what I'm looking for. So I always go to a networking meeting with a goal. And my goal is to meet one or two key people that I want to follow up with. And so you can use that on Zoom as well. It's
Yes.
still a valid goal. And if someone, I don't know, if there could be a myriad of reasons why I don't want to follow up, but sometimes I've met like, so I don't want to offend any, I'm like, I better be careful. I don't want to offend any industries, but
No, no. But
if
the thing is,
you're not
yeah,
looking for it, I'm not going to ask. I'll just leave
right,
it
right.
at
Right.
that.
But the point I wanted to make here, again, it's not about any person or industry, but, as a networker, you want to do everything you can to make yourself attractive. You don't want to repel anyone.
Right.
And that's to me like the rule one, because you want somebody to want your card or you
Mhm.
want somebody to be willing to connect with you and take the relationship to the next level. So just like you don't marry every guy you date, right? You don't need to marry everybody that you connect with. It's just taking that relationship to the next level and giving it a chance to develop. And
A
I
good
just love the idea of the potential.
a good person, also additionally, when you're talking with someone, and this is on Zoom, on the phone, in person, a good networking experience is one where you will want to learn more about that person. So whatever they're saying creates a tell me more situation,
Yes.
or how do you do that? That's
Yes.
the goal. And what we're saying is to create that interest, to create that that tell me more. I'm intrigued. How do you do what you do? Those kind of things. And that's where you will set up, then you set up the one-on-one to go forward.
Yes. Yes. And it takes time to develop those skills, to
Mhm.
be aware,
Mhm.
again, be aware of your surroundings, be aware that you have control, make yourself attractive. So actually that kind of leads into the next question I have for you. So what are some networking etiquette tips? And I love to look at it like that, because if we know there are tools and skills that we have that can make us more effective and efficient, why
Mhm.
wouldn't we use them?
You'd
Right?
be amazed.
So what are some that you found, some networking etiquette tips that have helped you on your journey, or that you teach your community or clients?
Well, the number one is to treat people as professionals. And especially as entrepreneurs, they've taken a risk to create their business. So honor that and treat them like a professional, no matter what their age is. Not that I can tell anybody's age anymore as I get older, but it's important. We talked about it, appearance. I reemphasize that I have a no jeans policy whenever I go to in-person networking events, just because I want to be viewed as a professional, and first impressions matter huge, much
Yes.
more than we ever think. I mean, yes, you want to, there's a reason why they created uniforms for a lot of positions, or is because they want to be viewed a certain way, and it's that way.
Uniformly.
Yeah, and and also when you're dressed, you carry
Yes.
yourself differently.
Yes.
Just do. And take the meeting seriously on networking. We take it seriously when we go in person. So I always like show up early, make sure your tech is working. Um, if you need a glass of water, get your notes, whatever you need. Don't be rushed. And so then you come across as much more calm and much more professional. Also, do your research ahead of time. If it's a one-on-one, do your research ahead of time and see, find out, look at that person's website, look at their Facebook page, LinkedIn page, learn about them. And that way you'll come to the meeting much more professional, as well as have questions that you may want to ask. If it's a one-on-one, have questions ready ahead of time so that you come across as a professional. Those are just
Yes.
easy tips that people can take and use right away.
Beautiful. I love those. And they're simple. And you think everybody know them, but really they make all the difference. And one thing I want to add to, what wear something that you're comfortable in, not just that looks good. Because if you're uncomfortable wearing it, people can sense that.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I'd always say to my husband going to a meeting, how does this look? And he'd say, how do you feel?
Ah,
And that's true. You want
yes.
to feel comfortable. You want to feel empowered. Um, so anyway, that's kind of a fun thing. All right. So, what suggestions do you have with somebody who isn't comfortable with Zoom? What are things, we talked about this earlier, you had some great kind of suggestions on that.
Well, besides the tech part and stuff, is do practice sessions. I did that initially when I was starting to do online presentations. Tech is not always been my friend. So I did a practice session with my 28-year-old son, who is very tech, and I did the whole presentation with him, and he gave me some tips and stuff. And so if you don't, friends, colleagues, you also, one of the things, don't forget, you can use the phone instead of Zoom, either way.
Yes.
If you really are petrified, but Zoom, hey, if I can learn Zoom, you can learn Zoom, because
Right.
I definitely have had tech challenges and they keep upgrading it. So there's wonderful tutorials too. You could use those kind of things, but practicing is really the best way to feel more successful.
It is. Practicing with a friend is a great idea, or a colleague.
Mhm.
Okay, so how do you avoid making a fool of yourself or ruining your reputation networking online? We've kind
Well,
of touched on this, but I just want to kind of dial it in a little bit.
well, I like to, imagine that you're in the same room with that person. And how would you dress? What would you say? How would you stand? Same rules apply. But it's just maybe do a visualization. And
Yes,
that's what's really important, is be professional. The bottom line is you're a professional. You want to be treated as a professional. So act like a professional.
right. Brilliant. I love that. Imagine the person's in the room with you. I love that. Because it encapsulates everything else you've already talked about so beautifully. Um, so we've been going here, so I'm just going to I want to make sure we answer all the promises that you made to our listeners. So what are some good tips for someone who wants to grow their network virtually?
Well, we had talked about on the online meetings about using the chat box, and I really encourage people to be strategic about it. Is so next time you're on an online meeting, your goal is to meet one or two key people. Who are those people going to be, and why? Do you have when we had done our connections meeting, we had hit upon, I spoke about power partners and power panel. Who is in your power partner team? Who are you looking to meet? So if you know that there are people that you may want to meet with, maybe invite them also to the meeting. That's a great way to build, because then they may invite people, and think about who are your strategic partners. When you're doing a one-on-one, you want to have a preset agenda in terms of, I like to say, Cyndi, hi, I would ask, how long do you have to talk?
Yes.
So do you have 30 minutes, or, and one-on-one Zoom meetings go faster than in person. It's easy to spend an hour together when when you're meeting in person, but I found that Zoom meetings go faster. And so that can save time and energy. So have a preset agenda, ask them, how long do you have to talk today? And have your questions be very clear. And of course, always do follow up. That is, like,
Yes.
how important follow up is.
Fortunes in the follow-up. It's
There
important to
you
learn
go.
how to
Money,
master
I
those.
often say the money's in the follow up. So those
Yes.
are some really
Yes.
easy but important tips to take.
Yes. So for a new person, they might feel like, okay, there's 25 people on the call. I can't chat with 25 and pay attention. So I love your reminder, 2, 3 people to
Math.
follow up with. It's manageable. And
Hmm.
then, follow up, make those appointments, schedule them, and then decide if you want to, how far you want to take that relationship. Continue connecting, or just have them as a resource or somebody you can refer to others.
Right.
Um, and then private chatting is important also. And then it's time saving also, right? We don't have to get dressed, drive across town, have the meeting, come home. There's a lot of, we can fit a lot more in our day, I found.
Yeah. And for introverts, it saves your energy. Not only are you no parking, no traffic, cheaper coffee, because they're
Yeah.
don't have to go
Right.
to Starbucks, but you are being much, you can actually have more one-on-ones in a day if you want.
Yeah, I found I've been a lot more, productive.
Mhm.
Um, and, I can choose who I want to connect with, and, work them into my schedule, and, always continue to keep that balance of new people nurturing that relationship and taking it to the next level, and then existing relationships nurturing those as well. Nurture your network. That's the
Yeah.
game.
Yes.
To be able to, because you don't want to just do one. You want to, build your network at large.
Right.
So we're getting close here. We went on a little bit over time, but we had such great information, and thank you so much for sharing your passion, which is my passion of people and networking and being able to share tips and nuggets that can help people to feel more comfortable and really, continue to build those relationships. So before we open up the line, I want to be able to have a quick recap on the 3 takeaways that you offered. So if you can share those, that'd be great.
Okay. So let me go up there so I make, how to avoid making a fool and ruining your reputation. Show up as a professional. The number one faux pas of virtual networking is not, well, there's actually more than one, but it's not being who you are, as well as not showing up as who you are, and not treating the other person as a professional. And when to talk and when to keep quiet in a networking situation. Be careful about interrupting, and don't be afraid to reach out for that person, like we had talked about, to create the one-on-one connection. They could be a potential power partner, strategic partner, or a resource. And those are all great, easy tips that you can take and use with yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. So if somebody is on this replay or on the call today and wants to follow up with you and learn more, they can go to
stephanieconnects.com. And
okay.
either send me an email or schedule a networking strategy session. I've offered to your group a 30-minute networking strategy call. It's a special price of $47. It's usually actually more than $97. And when you sign up, you'll get not only my 17 virtual and Zoom networking tips, but I will also give the done for you networking strategy plan. So also another easy way, my email is hello@stephanieconnects.com. And that's a very easy way to reach me. And we can set up a time to chat.
Well, beautiful. Thank you so much again for being the spotlight speaker at our February event and being willing to, really take that teaser talk and dig in deeper today with me. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the call. We have a little time here for those who've joined us to be able to ask questions. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
Well, it was a pleasure to listen to you, Stephanie and Cyndi. Always lovely. And as an extrovert, I was listening in and I was like, she is so right, because we extrovert do get our energies from other people. But I do want to say that we can still get it on a Zoom setting. We don't have, of course, it is much easier to be physically with other people, but using the chat box and keep on nourishing that and energizing that actually could do wonders to somebody who speaks. So that's brilliant to use the chat box either in the private setting or in the everyone setting. And you've given us so many tips, and I am absolutely thankful. And I can give credit here because Stephanie was my connector when I left my job and came to my first gathering, and I did not know anybody. Stephanie recognized me, and she came up and said hello and introduced me to a bunch of people, and even put my name in a drawing basket, which my name was drawn.
That's right. I made her go into the basket.
That's right. And that was really lovely. So you all should have a Stephanie by your side for sure.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful testament to her heart, and she walks her talk, and and I'm so excited, Doris. And so for those on the call, this is how it works. We've got Chuck on the line. I've known Chuck since 2007, And we've been in networking events and we've collaborated and worked together over the years. And he's an integral part of Exceptional Connections in our community. And I met Stephanie through Rakshana. She made a personal invitation. We had a just amazing Zoom call. We've had many since then, but just love this lady and so thankful to have her in my life. And she introduced me to Doris. And Doris and I, have also had these wonderful conversations, and she's going to be our speaker in March. And for those who are listening, Doris will do a conversation to connect. I think it's March 17th, actually. So I love the way relationships are like seeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
You water
Absolutely.
them, you nourish them, and they grow.
Absolutely.
And they duplicate themselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
And you can always make a relationship that did not go well, bring it back, just like a plant, right? If you put the right ingredients, it could look like it's not going well, but you can nourish it, right? It's never an end. And, if you did a mistake, if you made a mistake in a networking event, it doesn't mean that you're doomed. So for all these people who chased after somebody in the bathroom because they were so excited about what they wanted to say to that person, right? Don't do that again, but don't keep, but don't drop the whole networking off your radar. So it's like, well, I'm not built for this. You're not built to go to the bathroom after somebody, but you could stay in the main room and chat with other people, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's not, it doesn't end your opportunity to get to know that person, to deepen that relationship. We all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes. We all fall, but it doesn't mean that we fail when we fall.
No.
It's just you learn the lesson, you get the memo. That was not cool. Move on and learn. So
yes. I love that. Both when Stephanie mentioned it and you did just now, you want to fail forward, right?
Yes.
You want to keep learning from what we've experienced.
Absolutely.
So Chuck, did you want to chime in here?
Yeah, I got kind of for Stephanie here, an insight. I'd like her to comment on this. That one of the things that's happened to me, what I witness on Zoom networking meetings that I did not in person meetings, is the balance of the conversation. And what I find is, especially for myself, because my goal always at a networking meeting has always been to get the other person to start talking and tell me about them. Because to me, I look at it as a matter of respect, that I'm interested in them. And that's worked in person, it works really well because people do want to tell you about themselves. And I want to know what they do and why they do it and all that. But what's happened in Zoom, I find, is that you get in meetings and people can dominate the meetings.
Oh, yes.
And it's kind of not so good. So what's happened to me is my reputation on Zoom meetings, and this is like hard for me to believe actually, is that people think I'm an intellectual introvert. And I'm like, really? But people do. They think I'm an introvert, and I am not an introvert. And but it's because I listen. And so I've gone to meetings where I never said a word. And people say, Chuck, you should speak up, but when you got 15 people or 20 people on the call, I just like, well, as long as the conversation is going well, there's no need for my input. So I kind of wanted to know your insight on this area of balance in Zoom meetings.
I think it really boils down to the leader of the meeting. How are they engaging people on the call? Are they doing breakout rooms? I highly suggest doing breakout rooms to keep people awake, keep people on the call, to keep people energized. Cyndi always does that little break in between so you can get your blood flowing, because I think people are getting a little too complacent sometimes. And you can't use it's like you can't always use the private chat to ask a real question. So I think it's important for people to you know, if the meeting is going that way, Chuck, and it's one that you go to regularly, I would invite you to have a conversation with the organizer and maybe suggest some more interactive ways so that you can be heard. And if it is getting railroaded, you need to, you have a choice. If it's not, you have to be selective about it. If it's not making the cash register ring, if it's not being if it's not providing you with resources or people that are helping you build your business, then it may be a next conversation and you may need to stop attending that group. And that's okay, because groups evolve. But it may change when they go back in person, but it's your time and you need to be solicitous of it. It's okay. You're not offending anyone.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Stephanie, because I think it is important for us to be able to communicate all around with the people that are in the meeting and with the organizers to give their input, because it's a whole new world for all of us. We're all learning, right? So I think it's important to be gracious with each other and not judgmental, but at the same time, it's better, I would rather as an organizer, for people to let me know how things impact them than for them just disappear and I never know.
Right. And that's the other key point there, Chuck, is you may be helping the organizer learn something that they hadn't realized. And that to me is, as an organizer of events too, like Cyndi, that to me is very helpful when I get that constructive feedback.
Yeah. And that's the operative word there, by the way, constructive. It's all in the spirit of how you receive things, right?
Right.
Well, we've gone over here a little bit, but thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your brilliance with me. This is a super fun conversation in our community. I know this is going to be a contribution in our YouTube channel. So thank you again for your support. Anybody who's interested in learning more about Stephanie, getting connected to her, do go to stephanieconnects.com. And she's been a part of our community and just really valued member, doing our exceptional insight presentation for us in November. And then as a spotlight speaker in February, and now in this conversation to connect. So thank you again, Stephanie. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you for those who joined us on this call and for those who will be listening to the replay. Really appreciate you guys. Stay safe.
Thanks, Cyndi.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.